Okay, it is 6:30 on Tuesday, December 12th. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Woodstock Village Board of Trustees. We usually do additions and deletions a little bit later, but I'm going to start with additions and deletions because we need to delete the first two things on the agenda. So Renee Hebert and Anthea have decided that they are not interested in being part of these committees and commissions, so we won't be interviewing them tonight. The other thing that is coming off is the conflict of interest policy discussion, because there's still more for us to learn about that. Are there any other items that need to be added or deleted?
I don't have anything.
Eric?
Nope.
Only that the parking recommendations will be, I'd like to be discussing them, but it isn't just Mechanic Street.
Okay, got it. So we'll just make that parking recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, any other changes, trustees?
No.
Okay, next we will move on to citizen comments. Are there any citizen comments? Anybody online? Do we have everybody here?
I don't see anyone online.
I knew somebody from the History Center was going to try to jump on.
There's a Deborah Rice and a Lauren Dorsey.
Deborah Rice has a question.
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'm from Barn Arts. I think I was number 6 before. I don't know where you are on the agenda.
Yeah, we're not with you yet, almost.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're a little bit further down. Okay, so there's nobody from the History Center. I knew somebody wanted to, but if they're not here, we will keep going. Did you have a comment? Yes.
Just.
Oh, can you come up? We have a new system.
Oh, it's the same system as.
Oh,
As the EDC.
yes.
My comment, I'm Beth Finlayson from the Woodstock Chamber. My comment would be that perhaps next year we need 4 porta potties and perhaps behind the Welcome Center as opposed to the courthouse.
What about 2 and
2 and 2. That would, the line was so long at one point, it seemed like, and people didn't know where to go for the courthouse. So
Okay.
that's just for the record for future.
I think the fire department parked a few fire engines on by next to the end where the sign was.
Okay, well, that's not.
So I think that was one of the issues too, that there was a sign on the green. The sign on the sidewalk was kind of covered by the 2 or 3 fire engines they had parked there. Oh,
Okay. What were the fire engines? Were they display or were they just?
I think they're there in case of emergency.
Okay.
There were a lot of firefighters on the green working.
Yeah, there was a good number of.
Recording in progress. If there's no more citizen comments, I think, then let's move on to the manager's report.
So just to pick up on what Beth was saying, I first want to thank the chamber, all the residents, the community for another great Wausau. First time I was kind of semi-working during it, not just enjoying it. But I also want to thank DPW, the police department, the dispatchers, fire department, all for kind of helping out and making sure we had a safe and secure, fun weekend. On that, I just want to mention an ongoing issue we had was the trash barrels. So at about 4 p.m. on Saturday, I had a few DPW crew go around the village and try to clean up the trash. At that point, almost every barrel was overfilling. A lot of them had coffee or chili, half eaten, half spilled. So not make for a fun or easy cleanup for the crew. I've also noticed over just any busy weekend in the summer, foliage. So I think probably I need to have a larger discussion about trash kind of in the village, especially on big events, and what we can do about that. Mark Hunter and I had a few conversations already about it. I had a small conversation with the chair today about it. I just want to bring up to the trustees knowledge, also to the community at large, that we are aware of it, and we will talk about some solutions going forward to make sure that we can keep the village clean and functional during these events. Other news, we have two new DPW employees who will be on a CDL license. One just got his last week. The other one should get his this week, which will allow for more plowing opportunities for us with the months. So we're excited about that. Next, just so everyone knows, we'll be closing town hall early this Thursday at 2:45 for a holiday party for the staff. So from 2:45 until Friday morning, town hall will be closed.
It's a long party.
Hmm?
It's a long party.
That's at 3.
There's an after party here.
And so it's just 3 to 4:30 when it'll be closed. So just so everyone's aware, it's on Facebook, should be on the website, should be on the listserv. It's on the front door as well. So hopefully there'll be no miscommunication with anyone. So that, and the last thing I just want to mention is FY25 budgets. The trustees met a few weeks ago to go over the budget as it was. We made a few cuts to go to 6.9. It's a new version to the trustees about half an hour ago. So we should kind of discuss next steps to kind of hopefully have this all settled before holiday break and be prepared for a village meeting. But that's all I have for my update. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them now on that.
Okay, I see that Jill has a question. Let me just go through and see if trustees have any questions. Brenda, do you have any questions on that report? Okay, trustees, Jeffrey, Bill?
No.
Gabe?
No.
Okay. Jill, you had your hand up.
Oh, it was just a comment about trash bins.
Please.
We used to have a solution. It was to put extra bins out on busy
So we
weekends.
did do that as well. We've actually been out as well. There was just a lot of trash on Saturday.
There's and I mean, there's another suggestion, which is, you know, if you put food vendors on the green, then you need even more trash barrels. So that seems to be,
Yeah.
you can't stop people throwing stuff away. So you just need to have more and more and more receptacles.
Yeah, that was a lot of.
The vendors should have receptacles too.
Yeah, I think we're gonna talk about it too when they talk about the green ordinance later in the day. It's a good time to bring that up.
Okay, you have a financial report for us?
So two things I want to just point on the financial report. One is to look at the overall expenses. We're about 38.5% expended. We're about 43% of the way through the year, so kind of just underneath, which is a good sign as we head into the halfway point. And then I sent an updated financial report earlier today to the trustees that had transferred a large portion of the town's police fee to the trustees. About $360,000 or $380,000 of the total. So the new one has that in there. But still, if you look at the police revenue, the first two lines, parking fines and parking meter revenue, we're still behind month to month. What that means is the last time we reconciled was September, so that is not showing October or November revenue coming in. And again, that's just how we currently reconciling our accounts. It just takes longer for that to happen. So with that said,
Is there any plan to change that? I mean, that's
Yeah, it's
that's
just-
2.5 months. lag.
it's getting our new finance director fully situated. He came on board and learned how we do our accounting, our reconciliation, but then we had the budgets. We have other things he had missed in the time of open employment. So it just really, he's facing 1,000 things at once. And so he's doing the reconciliation, but once he's fully trained, once he's fully situated, the goal is to have them done the month before the following month is over. So September will be finished before the end of October and so on and so forth. But that won't happen until he has time to breathe and fully train up on everything.
On that same category of police revenue, on the very bottom where it says credit cards, permits, parking. What do we mean by permits in that?
That is, I'll confirm, but I'm guessing either that shouldn't be there or that is including the permit parking that people pay for.
Shouldn't that be separate? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm bringing that up. I'd like to see that as a separate line, as opposed to park mobile or
Yeah.
credit card. we continue to discuss some of this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Uh,
Were you done, Eric?
You know, I'm concerned about some of the police budget. The report of the fund, for instance, under police administration, no, under law enforcement, 2-5031. You know, if you look at the bottom line, it says 41.27%. That's great. I mean, that's about right for this time, amount of time through the year. However, if you look at the column of the percentage of actual things, the only reason that looks good is because for some reason salaries and wages are below, and what they should be at this point. But others like contract services, operating supplies, professional services, small tools and equipment, officer video recording, those are so far beyond what we budgeted for that what happens for the next, this is after 5 months, what happens for the next 7 months? That's gonna balloon crazy.
Yep, so the contract services is what we talked about before, is kind of when an officer goes out for what we call like a detail off work hours. So they're at a wedding at the Woodstock and we pay them out of that account line, then we have the revenue that comes in as general fund revenue for the village. That wasn't budgeted for it. We probably should have budgeted probably $5,000 or $10,000 in there just as a placeholder. So that should be washed out with revenue. And then one of these, either operating supplies or small tools and equipment, will probably be the TASER contract. But I'll look into which one that is.
No, I don't think that's the taser. That's not the taser.
Small tools?
I don't think that's I think it's elsewhere, but it seems to me, you know, and operating supplies are so massively over, and yet we're less than half through the year.
Yeah.
I'm just raising that as a.
Yeah, I understand.
Joe gonna be here tonight?
He is, he's on his way down, yeah.
Oh. You wanna ask about that when he gets here?
Well, either that or asking our manager,
I can get more information on that, yeah.
because in things like police training, you know, we're at 96% of the year after 5 months. And travel and transportation, you know, 140% of what we expected. There's still a lot of the year to go. So I'm concerned with other elements on the police.
I don't know for sure, Jeffrey, but I mean, it's a good question. But you know, maybe they bought their supplies up front, and same thing with getting the training out of the way. But that's the only thing I could.
Yeah.
If that was true, then
That's the only thing that I could think of that would do that. But we'd have to ask.
Yes. I'm in agreement, Gabe. Just bringing up things that are jumping out at me. Also, under parking meters, the library lot rent, I think we've received a lot of the income for that parking lot. But when do we pay them?
We actually got the bill this week. So it should be an AP warrant this week.
Okay, all right. I was wondering, because. And then under building maintenance, some things that don't make sense to me, it's just not entered, you know, like propane, 0. Electricity, 4% of what's budgeted. Those numbers just are out of whack.
Yeah. I'll look into those.
Harry, something up to date and entered just some of these zeros as you're going down the columns. Where Robert was trying to catch up on everything as he was getting familiar with all. Is this relatively up to date, or is there still lots of catching up to do?
So on the revenue side, there are things to catch up on. So like I mentioned before, some of the parking only gets done when we reconcile, so we're behind on that. Let me take a quick look. Highway state aid probably hasn't come in yet.
Miscellaneous and all zeros, I guess that It's just miscellaneous.
Yeah, miscellaneous is gonna be revenue that we don't, budget for, because we don't expect it to come in, right, usually, if that's the one you're looking at.
Under planning and zoning, I've got questions under expenses where we did have budgeted things like for professional services, $800, legal fees, $1,600, equipment purchase, 800, travel and transportation, 800, and yet actuals are completely zeros for all of those.
Mhm.
Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, they'll be accurate as what Plan Zone has submitted to our finance department. If they have invoices that haven't sent to us yet, then those would not be representative here. But our turnaround is usually about a week, week and a half with invoices. Once we get them, we pay them.
Yeah.
It just could be, legal services. They may not have to use any of them yet, or they may not have been billed for them yet. Or because Plan Zoning is split between town and village, some of the legal services could have been charged to town because it was a town situation, not a village situation.
Mhm.
But I have been not strict, but have tried to make department heads as much as can like aware of watching the expenses, kind of making sure they only spend things when they need to.
But that part's terrific. It just seems odd after 5 months that all of those categories are total.
Well, hopefully he's not watching because he's gonna spend money. Hopefully Steven's not on watching this because then he's gonna spend money. No, I mean, you'll see like the due descriptions, 2,800, that's some of that probably could have been allocated to travel and transportation. But we put all that account for the conference they went to. Advertising is just when he has to do this stuff. But there'll be some equipment purchases soon from that department, I assume. And then professional services, legal services, just when it's required. So far, they haven't required it, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions about the finance report?
Just in time.
Okay, if there's nothing else on the finance, Brenda, did you have anything on the finance report? Okay. Okay, well then, perfect timing. Chief Swanson, it's time for the police chief's report.
Podium, please.
Podium now.
Podium,
Yes.
you getting on top of that?
Michelle sent me the numbers today for the meters. Just want to find the email.
I have it if you need to, Chief.
Here we go. I got it. Meters revenue for November. Kiosks for $33,134.65. Meters are $3,620.28. Park mobile $5,435 even, for a total of $12,189.93, which is down from previous months, but still up from previous years. 22 was $10,961.65. November of 2021 was $8,215.43. I don't have much else to report on. Traffic for Wassail was pretty wild with parking, pretty congested. The bus route for the shuttle worked pretty well, but River Street still got bogged down, so the shuttle still got kind of stuck in the Route 4 traffic a little bit, but it was better than last year, so we can tweak it some more for next year. But there's still room for improvement.
When I saw the shuttle bus, I was going down the street to avoid having to go back from town hall.
Yeah,
bus was having a lot of trouble turning a corner.
Yeah, the turn was as good as it could be. We were able to block parking on Mountain from that intersection towards the park. So they were able to make it, and it also looked like they were blocking the intersection to load and unload, but not using the red lights. I don't know if that's because the passengers aren't students or I wasn't sure, but they were able to get through for most of it up until during the parade. But I didn't have anything else to present on today.
Jeffrey, you have a question?
My question is, you missed it, Joe. I
Okay.
tore this financial report apart a little bit, especially at the police section, but I related to Eric, so I don't need to go over it again.
Okay.
Yeah, him and I can, Joe and I will meet.
Yeah, I know there's a couple things I'm over on. I have grant revenue for. Just haven't received some of it back.
Eric will discuss it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, trustees, do you have any other questions for Joe?
No.
Okay.
Brenda, anybody online? Questions, comments? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, so next item on our agenda is permits. It's use of green permit from Barn Arts, and I think we've got somebody online.
That's me.
Please go ahead and talk to us about your application and what you'd like to do.
Yes, it's pretty simple. On the 16th, the Barn Arts Chorale, which will be performing the night before in Barnard, a lot of holiday music, wants to gather on the green at, I think we said about 2. And, any people who happen to be in the green can join us if they want. It's just an informal carol sing. That's what it amounts to. Won't be for very long.
Deborah, how many are in the chorale?
Well, we have 45 performers, but I don't think all of them are going to show up on Saturday. So I would guess, maybe 30 and maybe 20. We did it before one day when it was snowing several years ago.
Huh.
And people loved it. They, the tree was on and they came over and stood in a big circle. And yeah.
Yeah, sounds lovely.
And are you advertising for this?
Yes.
And so no infrastructure, just standing there singing?
No, just ourselves.
Okay. Trustees, do you have any questions
I
about
do
this?
not.
People online, citizens, any questions, comments, concerns about this application? Okay, is there any further discussion?
I would make a motion to accept the application as presented.
In a second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And fascinating as you all are, I am going to depart. Thank you.
That's okay. The honesty. Okay, next item on our agenda is Village Public Trust Funds disbursement decisions. You'll see some information in the packet from our trustee of public funds, Jill, who's also on. Jill, do you want to talk to us about what you've given us here and any recommendations you might have?
Sure. So I'm the village trustee of public funds. So I monitor the funds through the year and write the checks, but we've agreed that we all make the decisions together. So I've started with some recommendations and then there for you to agree or disagree with or suggest something else. So we have 4 funds. We have guidelines for the funds, and they were determined by the person that left us the funds. And so we could just talk through them one by one.
Mhm.
Okay, so the first one is the Frank McKenzie Fund. This fund there's about $3,500 in it. And it is just for the purpose of continuing the fireworks 4th of July exhibit. Last year, we gave $300 to help pay for the funds. This year, the funds haven't done so well in their investments. So I'm suggesting that we disperse 5% of the fund values. We could do 8%, and that just means that the fund will disappear probably faster than obviously if you do 5%. So the recommendation is $180. If we go with 5%, it would be $280 if we went with 8%.
I'm comfortable with 8%,
So that's the 200 and,
280,
80, which is close to, what, it was 300 last year, right?
yes.
We know what the fireworks cost all total.
I believe it's $7,000.
Something like that. This is pittance. I agree that it should be close to what we did last year. I
Yeah.
agree with 8%.
Okay,
Bill?
I agree, that's fine.
okay. I think we can go ahead and we can vote as we just decide things. So I would make a motion to disperse $280 from the Frank S. McKenzie Fund to be used for the town 2024 fireworks. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
okay,
Okay.
that's the easy one. The next
Yes.
one, Orley Whitcomb. So this money was left in 1936, and it's to be used for civic betterment of the village. Last year, we spent the money on village tree work. So this year, I'm suggesting that we have 3,300 disbursement, but we have to decide what to spend it on.
How about the village parks?
Are we all set with trees for this year? Money for the trees?
Eric got a report from Don.
So a little funding we did last year, which is $15,000 in the operating and then $5,000 in the capital reserve.
Okay.
The tree warden met with me, had a budget, a list of things for, I think, $34,900 that they could do if they wanted to. So, much higher than what is budgeted for the year. But that also is probably more the wish list than what needs to get done.
How much was that he had how much?
34,000.
34,900 was his wish list.
Wish list.
Yeah.
So we have Orley Whitcomb Fund and the Old Fire Station Fund that both went to trees last year. Would it be worth putting both of them toward trees so that we can actually have something substantial and say these funds did this?
I like the idea. I was thinking either the parks, but trees in the same direction of it.
Well, yeah, and we know that there are lots of trees that need help,
Yeah.
obviously. I talked to Eric earlier today about the EDC had been possibly working on a plan for trees, but I don't know if that just fell off. So I plan to follow up with them and sort of see what they're doing. And if this can help, that's certainly fine.
Well, if we use the same logic of 8% of the funds
Yeah.
rather than 5%, then between the two funds, we would have $7,000 to contribute to tree work this year. That's not insubstantial.
I like that, Jill.
Yeah.
Yep, I like that too.
So that would be 5,200 with Orley Whitcomb, and Old Fire Station would be 1,800.
I think.
And so we just mark it for trees, and so it's a general
Yep.
thing, and so then it becomes up to the tree warden to figure out how to use that money.
It can be, or it can also come through the trustees of specific projects, or my office that you want to work on.
I think we need him to come speak to
So do I. Yeah.
us and tell us and have a list of his wish list. And perhaps we can weigh in on.
And then we can have them allocate the 7.
Allocate that, plus what we budgeted, plus what we budget for.
And then this money would be in the FY24 budget, so we'd need to spend it before June 30th.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is that possible?
Yeah, because in the spring
Oh, I'm sure.
is when a lot of the work gets done.
Well, and even just if it goes towards tree trimming, which has to be done in the spring anyway.
Well, I would make a motion that we spend 8% of the Orley Whitcomb Fund and the old fire station fund for tree work to be determined and to be used before June 30th, 2020.
Second,
Second,
all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and then the fourth fund is the Ethelwood Sidewalk Fund, and there's just a small balance left in that because we had to write the check for the investment paid back a little bit. So there's $760 there, so we could just write a check and put it towards sidewalks.
Yeah, and we have that list now that Mark can work through. So I think that's a pretty,
Yes.
Don't think you'd be able to do much for $760, but
yeah,
at least
well, we'll add it in with
Whatever else.
whatever else.
Well, there's others on our list that
Yes.
we're spending ARPA funds on. So this
Okay.
could be added to that.
So could you vote on this one to say that the value is the auditor's value to close this fund? Just in case 760 is an estimate, and then the auditors
Okay.
will come back with a final number in January.
Okay, that sounds good. Then I would make a motion to spend the audited fund balance of the Ethelwood Sidewalk Fund for sidewalk improvements in the village. Is there a second?
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate all your work on this.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Jill. Thank you.
And I appreciate that you explain it to us over and over and over again.
It's worth it. We don't think about it very much, so we all need reminding.
Okay, you make us look good. Okay, next item on the agenda is the village monuments policy. Eric?
So, the trustees wanted a policy, it was sent to planning and zoning, who put together one. Then based on the guidance from trustees, we sent it to our attorneys. What you see in the packet is the two versions, one in red with their changes, then the clean version behind it. So if the trustees have reviewed it and are okay with it, you can vote on the clean version. If there are questions or concerns, we can go back to our attorneys, get more feedback.
Trustees, do you have any questions? Or do you want to flip through it real quick before?
Well, it's what we've already.
Yeah, this is, yeah.
Already gone
Look at
over it.
this, it looks good.
I think it's fine.
And it only took us a year to do.
It was January, I think.
It was January, hey,
Or months, 11 months.
11 months. But we did it, guys.
Just had a flood and some turnover. and,
Yeah, that's
you know,
okay. We've been. I think we're going back and forth with the lawyer language, Eric. It's a lot. Does anybody in the audience, anybody at home have any questions? Or Beth, questions, concerns about the monuments policy? Okay. No, trustees, questions, comments? Does anybody want any further discussion?
Actually, you know what? I didn't look at that. My one question to you was
Yes.
the pets. Did we ever get a question answered?
Oh, what was your question again?
It was a question, you know, just because someone may decide they want to leave something.
So we said no.
Did we say no? I
Well,
forgot.
it has to be somebody who is of somewhere in here it says that somebody who's
Yeah.
of significance.
Okay,
So
I
if there's a
was trying to find out, where is that? That's the only.
Page 2, number 3, community.
So if there was a
Okay.
super significant pet,
Got it.
sure, we have the ability. But I do not know about a super significant pet.
Okay, then
Yeah.
that's fine.
But of course, these are guidelines, so
Yep.
there is leeway for us and future people to go back and forth.
Then I'm good.
Okay, in that case, I would make a motion to accept this final version of the monuments, memorials, markers, and plaques, policies, and procedures for the village. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Yay. Once this gets all cleaned up can, Nikki add it to the website so that it goes in with all of our other services and such? Okay, we are skipping over conflict of interest policy. So the next item is a discussion item, and it's a review of the green ordinance. A reminder of why we're doing this is because with the gore in front of the library that we now know that belongs to the village, we started to talk about what should the rules be, what should we use it for? We had some great community feedback. And one of the things that was suggested was just do what we do on the green. Well, once we started looking at the green ordinance, there were a lot of things on there that we don't do, that we probably shouldn't, and some things that we don't do that we probably should, and some things that we're not doing that we probably should. So Gabe and I have sort of taken a first stab at the use of green ordinance and wanted to start the conversation with the trustees in the community about some of these ideas. So when we looked at it, and again, this is the first conversation of a series of conversations, is we sort of looked at the green and the gore at the same time and tried to figure out what goes in either one and what are the rules that should be the same and what are maybe different. I think one of the things we discussed sort of overall between those two is that the green is really for bigger events, and the gore would be used for sort of smaller events, sort of like PTA things. Obviously, Bookstock's not going to be on there, you know, or like big deals, but like these are smaller, probably 1 day, 2 day events, but not huge tents. We obviously can't put up a lot of infrastructure on the gore anyway. So our thought was big things sort of that are going to attract a lot of people go on the green, and then smaller things are going to go on the,
Like the garden club
yeah, the
Memorial
garden
Day.
club,
Yeah, they just,
that sort of stuff. So that was sort of our overarching thought as we were going through these. So one of the first things we looked at was in the ordinance, we have a $50 fee, but we've never really treated it as a fee. We've almost treated it more as a security deposit. And so in some cases that is refundable. What we have realized is that processing applications takes time and money, mostly Nikki's time and Eric's time, and then if it has to go through anybody else. So our recommendation is that be a straight fee that is not refundable because people's time is worth money. And then looking at, as Eric said earlier, talking about trash and those sorts of things, maybe considering a security deposit that is then refundable if the green is in, you know, good shape. You know, if people leave trash all over the place, you don't get it back. So those were sort of but then when we go to the gore, since it's smaller groups, maybe saying you just need the certificate of insurance because it's a shorter, easier thing to do.
So would they need an application fee for the gore as well?
So we were talking about something less or not at all, presuming that it's like smaller, because we started thinking about the groups that we had like on the green this summer. So if you have a PTA who really, it's a small, like people are baking things and it's a smaller thing, like it makes more sense not to charge them as much. But if it's a bigger thing,
There'll still be an application.
yeah, there'll still be an
Yeah.
application, but maybe not a fee, or maybe a smaller fee.
Yeah, we'll need to determine what
Yes.
that number is. For the
And this is, again, all like first draft stuff. We noticed in the ordinance that it says that people have to submit 30 days prior. We have not been enforcing that, as in today. We talked about there's extensive language in here about having a recycling plan, which at least during my time, I don't recall ever asking or enforcing a recycling plan. But certainly, as we've discussed earlier today, we think that we should add some language in about a trash plan, whether that's charging an extra fee because DPW is going to do it and we have to pay people overtime to do that, or say you have to hire your own people. We've talked about, you know, do we put a dumpster somewhere for like bigger events, those sorts of things, but making sure that trash requirements are part of the permit application so that we know that, you know, at the end of an event, there's not overflowing trash cans and we don't have to like freak out and call DPW on a Saturday afternoon. We talked about, there's a line there that says that there can be 2 or more permits at a time. And maybe keeping that, but specifying that if someone has gotten there first and their plan says we're using this space, then that, as we discussed with Wausau, like, that's their space, and then that's it.
Similar, similar to.
But there's potential for them.
Right, but it's just, it's just like for Wausau with,
Yeah.
with them, the conversation we had with the fire department. And you were gonna be on the west side and then,
Still very close to that, but
Well, but if the plan is, but if you or someone else comes and says, we need all 4 quadrants because we're gonna have this set up and we have whatever, and that is in your plan, then that becomes I'm sorry, somebody has decided that they're gonna use the entire space and we've granted that permit, and that's it. So it has to do with how things are planned out. I mean, if you get egregious and you have one vendor and you're like, I need the whole thing, we're like, no, you don't. So that's a discussion that can happen when somebody asks for the permit, but we want to be more specific about that.
Like on Wednesday. The market,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wednesday market, that's the entire green. But,
pretty much the.
but
Yeah,
without being the entire green,
What?
without being the entire green, however, it's not the entire green.
well, and we have to decide what
I'm
is,
sorry, what isn't the entire green?
The far west end,
We were pretty up there.
okay. Well, I don't want to split hairs, but obviously the market on the green is a good example where we wouldn't give, anyone else allowed on those Wednesdays.
yeah, and so that is needs to be built into the permit. So when whoever comes before us says, I need the entire thing for whatever reason, and we could of course say, no, you can only have half. I mean, it's certainly up to our discretion in conversation, but that way, once it's done and it's on the calendar, and somebody calls up and says, hey, I want to use the green, Nikki can look at the calendar and look at the application and go, somebody's already using the entire one, and it doesn't even come before us because it's done. Or she can say, somebody's already on half of it, so you can apply for this quadrant, but you can't apply for the other spaces. So there's, people don't get up here and get all confused.
Mhm.
So that's the next one. There's also a thing on there that says that there can be no motor vehicles on the green. When I first moved here, and I know in the past, there used to be that Porsche show, and so vehicles did sit on the green, so we have done that in the past. I would love it if that could happen in the future. That was just kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we put restrictions around it, like you're not driving on the green, but you are parking for show things.
yeah, so in other words, maybe use the word display. So if you're displaying vehicles, some kind of show.
Vehicles for approved display.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
It
the fire
could be,
truck,
yeah,
whatever.
fire truck or which we
But,
just did. It could be, do some motorcycle.
Or
Do they put trucks on the green for that?
Yeah, they do.
So then it's,
the light.
Yeah, but that's work.
yeah, that's work, which is different than,
uh,
they don't ask us for a permit
No,
for it.
no.
But, yeah, the truck on for the rotary to put the memory tree.
And I don't know that, but Rotary's never asked us for a permit to do that.
No, it's just kind of up or down the.
I mean, you can. You started it, Beth. But
I mean,
that's,
so
that's
then-
considered maintenance to
Yeah,
my
so the
knowledge.
idea, so maybe we need to make that distinction, but it's for display.
But we have had old cars and new Porsches or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, because I think that's a
Yeah,
good
it
thing.
is. It's a nice event. And did you have the weather permitting though?
Yes, but
If
it's like,
there's like, if it's been raining for 5 days and it's
no.
mud out there, we're not gonna allow them to tear up the green.
and of course, with those things, if somebody spins out, you are required to clean it up, and so that's where that like security deposit could come in. Like, you didn't fill up the trash can, but there are ruts all over, and you could have prevented that, because now we have to spend money on it. And then the final item was, because we've done this year, do we either add into the ordinance or have an understanding about private events? Because we have allowed one private event this year. It's a discussion that I think the whole community needs to have, certainly. One that we had this year,
The wedding the wedding.
I think it went
folks,
okay.
It went over well. It was pretty much, at least from what I saw when I walked out there, people went out, had some coffee, a bagel. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yes.
And they just said their goodbyes. They were basically saying their goodbyes. It was like, most people were just coming and going.
I think there should be room to allow that.
Yeah, yeah.
Given, so long as comes before the board, whoever's sitting on the board at that time.
Right. I mean, I like what we did. It
But it's a
just
different
allows,
fee, like, I feel like nonprofits and things that are benefiting the town.
well, they paid a fee.
Yeah, but we like made that up. So we need to come up with like, if you're gonna have,
Okay, yeah,
50 people having,
bagels.
yeah, bagels and whatever, not mimosas. But if they did have mimosas, you'd have to put the thing around it. We just need to have that written down so that when people come before us, we can make that decision. And then we, along the way, we can decide, we'll do this once a month or so it doesn't get crazy. I certainly don't want it to turn into like Disney World or anything.
Yeah, as long as it's not infringing on the public, so people could still
Mhm.
walk their dogs. And if they're okay with that too, and
Yeah, I mean, and basically, we really want to steer those kind of events, private events to the East End Park where possible.
Hmm.
But
we'll take it under consideration.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What is everybody, so those are our first draft ideas. Do we have other ideas or yes, no?
Oh, yeah, and you said you were going to work on the trash part.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that, because there's a very extensive recycling plan in here that I don't believe any,
Doesn't seem to be feasible.
no one has, I don't think
Right,
anybody has
Right,
ever
but in
submitted a recycling.
lieu of that,
Yes, so I think we would
Trash.
change it out with a trash plan.
okay.
Yeah, because you could think, you'd think, how you see some of those canisters, and let's say, recyclables, trash, and I don't know, you could even go to compost, whatever it is. People just put whatever in whatever bin.
They don't pay.
They don't.
largely don't pay attention. Yeah.
No.
It's true.
I was at Logan
So
Airport and they
is
had
it worth it to do something like that?
well, and is it, as Jill said, we have extra bins, so it's in the application, if it says, I need you to put out, we can say, we have 10 extra bins, and if you want us to do that, that's fine, but it's
Yeah.
gonna cost you. Like,
Yeah.
we have to recognize that that town staff employees' time is worth money.
They just put their own trash cans out.
Yeah, and then they can take it away. I mean, they have to take it, but it doesn't go into town trash. They have to,
Do most do it or don't do it?
what?
Most vendors don't do that.
No, they just pile
No.
things up in our trash.
But is that then the question would be then, is that commonplace anywhere in any other town? Where if you have vendors on your green, you ask them to use their own trash bins.
I mean, that's a way that we could do it, that we could say, you have to bring your own stuff.
Yeah.
So that ours don't get
Or
overwhelmed.
pay a fee to use ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, I don't want to add one more thing for the
Yeah,
DPW.
yeah, I mean, I don't think we're gonna solution it here today, but I mean, I think we probably should look at what other towns do when they
Okay, that's a good idea. I like that.
have these kinds of events on the green.
I think farmers markets that have food would be a good within look at.
Yes. I want to make sure everybody hears you.
My question is really just about events. I mean, Wausau kind of falls under the purview of the chamber, but it's a town-wide, town benefit event. And the trash was out of control. I'm the first to say that. But is there a working, I mean, I guess I'd like to ask you folks to think of a working solution when it comes to something that big. I don't think you find the same thing with the market on the green. We asked all the vendors to pack in and pack out.
Yeah.
And we really try to work with like Fat Dragon Farm to take their pizza boxes back with them, et cetera. But when it comes to something that is such a town-wide, countrywide event, I'm gonna ask for your help for that.
It is a different flow of traffic. I mean, what I saw this weekend, I mean, people were just going either this direction or that direction. And, it was pretty heavy, and people are carrying their coffee or whatever beverage it is and food. I don't know how you get them to leave their garbage with the vendor they purchased it with. I mean,
Well, or it can be, if we're gonna have multiple vendors, from our perspective, it's, we want to plan from the permit, from the person who's asking for the permit. We want them to have a trash plan. And so we can certainly come up with best practices of what that is.
Typical for people vendors bring their trash cans, have people, other vendors trash into there.
Well, or,
Yeah, yeah.
or,
I could have bought my coffee all the way at the beginning of the west end and then gone all the way east and then that was it. Or at Montverde too, anything. Yeah.
Which I think is.
There was that too.
well, and of course, but Montverde pays their taxes to have trash taken away, and the vendors do not. Right.
I think there's probably two things. One is the day-to-day, week-to-week green permit. The other is also, which is its own unique animal. But there probably should be two different solutions for
Oh, yeah.
those two. So I think,
That's what I was.
yeah.
We
okay.
can help, we can like brainstorm what are the best ways to do that and try something. If it doesn't work, we'll try
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah, just like we provide porta potties.
Yeah. And again, I think even foliage could be a good example of trying something. We did the porta potties, it worked. And then we knew we could have them for, because foliage is just bad, trash is just bad, it is everywhere, because people are buying food, sitting down, eating, walking around, so
Or bringing their own too.
bring their own,
Right. Or emptying their car out,
Entering what?
emptying their car out.
yes.
Yeah, that's only at gas stations. Everywhere else is rude. Okay, anybody online have any?
The only thing I would add
Yes, sir.
is at the start of it, on 9202, may only be issued for nonprofit organization Woodstock. I know with foliage, we kind of had,
Yeah.
and I know we have the variance, but maybe it's something to consider too, if there's a thing for situations where quote unquote for-profit organizations be on there as well, as we have.
Yeah, well, and so that's a way, and I'd be interested to talk to somebody who does such a thing for a living. Like, so many of our ordinances say this, and then later it's like, but you can do whatever you want. Like, that's not, I mean, it gives us the ability to do things, but what do we really want?
Yeah.
Like, and that's a discussion we need to have about, like, do we just want nonprofits on the green? Do we want for-profits on the green? Like, if we are at a stage where we're like, with the lack of food and because we want to be able to do things in the future, we say, anybody can ask for it, but it's a different rate for nonprofits than it is for profits, especially if we're saying people can have their wedding brunch there.
Yeah, or certain days, like you only want for-profits on Sunday and Monday.
So that wording needs to change.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, like Christina said, there is the variance at the end that basically says everything in this can be superseded by a vote of the trustees.
But I think the more that we and more importantly, the public understands what is what we're looking for, because somebody could say, well, it doesn't say it here, but I've heard that they might do whatever. Like, I want to give the community like a sense of exactly what we are going to allow and not allow. So they're not like, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't.
What's the next step you're gonna do on a draft?
Well, I wanted to get feedback from everybody and then sort of go through line by line and figure out where things could change. And then, of course, it has to start going through lawyers, but I like the idea of looking at other places for what they do for trash, since that's a big thing. And maybe just looking at other places for what they do for profits versus nonprofits, like Old Town Lebanon or whatever.
What towns do we go to? Big towns our size or?
Yeah,
Well, Lebanon does have a farmer's market,
yeah,
they do.
good to look at.
And they've other events.
yeah, they do events on that square.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Any other discussion on that? Any comments from the public?
Thank you for working on it.
Oh, sure.
Digging.
We love it. Okay, next item on the agenda for discussion is banners on Central Street. So this came up in a conversation, I think about,
This is came up with the Pride Festival and welcoming people in to town during that festival time, but could be for anything else. And I know we know the wire is out there now.
Yeah.
There's sneakers over on.
Just, yeah.
We had banner across there a long time ago.
I've never seen one
We had
since
one
I've
for
been.
the World Cup, the first Women's World Cup.
Yeah, and then long before that
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. So the question is,
do we want to bring it back?
Tough question.
Might went away.
Upon request,
I mean, we need a permit, we need rules like we do with the
Yeah.
ban on green.
yeah, because then
How do they like
anybody
it?
can put we can't just let anybody put any banner up
Yeah.
there saying,
The-
oh.
And one of the catches is that whoever wants to put a banner up has to go to Timber Tenders or someone to put it up, because we don't have a ladder big enough in the town. The fire department does not have one, and neither does DPW. I think you need like a cherry picker or something to get up there.
Clutters up the town though, and it's a look that's,
I love the one in Hanover. The one in Hanover is brilliant. And, you know, and so maybe like we're trying to figure out with the Gore and the Green, we say, you know, only really big events, you know, so it's a book stock, it's a wassail, like big tentpole events go on that. And then smaller things like we're having a garage sale for the PTA that can go on the Green where it's not quite as prominent, but like big town-wide events can go up on that one.
Doesn't even go on the green. It's not on the green.
Then we had Glad Rags and
Um,
we approved for Ted. Yeah.
Yeah, we give permission to use that as an information banner, even if it's not on the green for certain things.
But I think we should make a distinction because that's a much bigger,
Oh,
much more prominent.
I agree. I think we should bring that up at village meeting. See if there's public input. I would be for it for big events. I think it looks cool. I know. in
I would say
Hanover-
welcome,
Hanover looks good.
welcome to Woodstock or.
No, not welcome to Woodstock, but Wassel,
I just threw out there.
Wassel weekend or,
Oh, yeah.
or
Yeah.
Pride weekend, whatever,
Even foliage.
whatever a big
Yeah.
event might be.
And then we can, and that's another point of information for like, welcome, you know, it's foliage, go to, you know, with Town of Woodstock, whatever. So it's like, we can, as we're trying to be like, we want to make sure people know where the bathrooms are and the whatever, like, that's.
But we
one
don't
word.
want that up there.
You don't want a URL on
On
it?
the banner?
Just put the bathroom in an arrow and right there. Holy.
We'll just hang a sign that's like, right,
This way. I mean. No.
love it.
No.
I'm just waiting for the first meeting that we don't talk about porta potties and toilets.
Not gonna exist. We just keep talking about them.
Can you even Pride weekend?
Oh, Pride weekend.
Yes, we will.
Yes, yes, we will. Oh, goodness. Okay, so is the next step with that to sort of see what other towns do with their big banners, like maybe a Hanover? Does Stowe do that? Who else has big banners? Main Street.
I don't know if Ludlow does,
Freeport Maine did,
Okay,
they do.
but Hanover's the closest.
Yeah, or
I
does
have a
Nor-
phone, I
does-
can call.
Norwich doesn't do anything like.
No,
I don't have a downtown. Um,
Don't tell Dan which.
they have a lovely place. I like that place. It is the downtown. Hanover, Freeport, let me think of anything else. Stowe had one. Oh, well. If anybody thinks,
Rutland does.
oh, do they? Okay. Okay, so I'll look into that, and report back. Okay, so it's ongoing discussion. Okay, so we've taken, so next item on the agenda for discussion is parking recommendations. I'll turn that over to Jeffrey and Brenda.
yeah, so Brenda, myself and Susan Chiefsky have made proposals, as we mentioned before. I'd like to mention them again and change the timeline of when we would like the trustees to consider implementing some or all or whatever portion of this the trustees want to do. So I'm just going to go over it. And so the change is this. We would like to see if any of these get implemented, we'd like that to occur on July 1st. The new, to match the fiscal year. And so these are the proposals that are under consideration. And they involve the meters and parking spaces in the Mechanic Street parking lot, the library lot, Elm Street meters, and 2-hour parking area. One, we want to increase the meter hours that are currently from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. to 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. starting July 1st. And there would be flexible hours for the meter readers. Wouldn't be increasing their hours, but they would some days be working, 4 to 6, but they'd be coming in later. Other days they'd be just 10 to 4. We would not know, the public would not know what hours they'd be working. And that's something, that Chief Swanson thought would work. We would like to see a yearly renewal for all of the private spaces on July 1st, so that this would allow for billing consistency. So everybody would be starting at the same time and make the whole thing, instead of randomly throughout 12 months of the year. We would like to see if we could keep credit cards on file for automatic quarterly payments to, again, ease the process and the amount of time that Michelle Sutherland spends on this. We'd like to change the meter time to 4 hours instead of endless, except around the village green.
Wait, say that one more time.
Currently, you can feed the meters all
Okay.
day long. Some employees in Woodstock are doing exactly that. We'd like to discourage that. We'd like to change the meter time to 4 hours. We think that's sufficient time for the vast majority of all people to spend time walking around the village. Instead of it being endless, except around the village green, we would leave that as you continue to do that.
You could park on the village green for,
All day.
All
if you-
day.
If you.
Yes, yes, if you.
So
if
how-
you
and
pay.
why the difference there?
Well, Chief thought that was a good idea, and trying to remember. Brenda, do you remember?
Yes, Beth also felt it was a good idea as people come into town, shop, go for a hike on Mount Tom. And this way it allows for that to happen.
Okay, thank you for remembering that. I knew there was a reason for, you could point it out to people, so they don't have to come back after 4 hours and make sure that they moved or.
And that allows people who are specifically going to shops and restaurants
Okay.
to get the spots that are in front of shops.
Do you have some more stuff, Jeffrey? Because I did have a question.
I do have more.
Okay,
but-
I'll hold it. I'll hold it till.
Oh, okay, all right. We want to continue to use the lottery system for the spaces in the Mechanic Street and the library lots, and that is for business owners and employees. We want to add 2 parking spaces near Vermont Flannel on Elm Street, 1 space on each side of the crosswalk, as has existed in the past, without any problem in the past. And although this is, I know, a problem for some people in terms of how the regulations read, it's also within our power to do that as a municipality, if we choose to do so. And we're recommending that we add those 2 spaces back. And the poles for those meters are still in existence right there. We want to review the contractor's use of metered spaces and come up with a better system for dealing with
What is it?
contractors who are there for extended periods of time. And, I'd like Joe to be here to fill in on that.
Okay.
Um,
Do you know what the current practice is?
it's a little all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they pay the same amount as they would if you fed the meter, I believe, or a similar fee. So I think the conversation was, could you make them pay a little bit more for the disturbance if I was in
Okay.
while they're there? I don't want to speak for, but I think that was the policy.
Yeah, that was, our thought was that there would be an increase
Okay.
in for contractors versus if they were just someone else.
So would it be some type of, permit for contractors to be able to park? Because they might be there
Yeah,
for
well, that- they
several
do-
months,
they
right?
They do that now.
Oh, okay.
They arrange for it with the police. And so in a sense, they're getting permitted by the police.
Got it.
I'm not so sure that I think it needs to be tightened up, and I think it'd be worth it to have a higher fee than, of course, we're not proposing changing the fee of $1 an hour for parking spaces. We're leaving that alone. We're not proposing to change that. And for contractors, we think it should be more. I just don't have figures to throw out to you. We need to update resolutions that we can, because they would not be relevant if we adopt these things. So we would need to repeal and modify and change resolutions Um, 3 and 3A, and I read through them again today. Thank you, Eric, for sending those over to me to look at again. 3 and 3A are the same. One is signed, one isn't basically. But and resolution 5 on Elm Street, we intended that to be allow permit parking there. It exists now. Nobody's taken us up on it. It hasn't been advertised. But you know, the way that one works, you can get a permit. And again, our intention was for that to be for business people. And the permit allows you to park in any of the 2-hour spaces on Elm Street for as long as you want, if the space is available. It's not a reserved space, such as the Mechanic Street or the library lot. But you could park there for as long as you want, as long as the space is available. We need to modify that resolution that exists now to read businesses first, because that's 10 spaces. And then we need to create a resolution for the library lot. We actually don't have one in place. We need to do that. So we are suggesting that we increase the cost of the reserved parking spaces to match the cost if you were staying at a meter. So it would be the same cost as if you were staying at a meter, except you would have the right of a totally reserved space.
And that's Elm.
That's for Mechanic Street and the library lot. For Elm Street, it would be exactly 1/2 of that.
Because it's not.
Because it's not reserved. It would be a significant increase from what is currently being charged, but I think it's fair for the privilege of having a reserved space. And then we want to provide one 15-minute parking space in front of the Welcome Center next to the handicap space, similar to the post office parking. That for people who just want to, you know, keep that space open and moving. Also, we think it'd be a good idea to create a village parking map for residents and visitors to know where else, such as the elementary school on weekends and the summertime, other parking locations that they could potentially use. So these are all things that we would like to continue to work on in the year ahead, and with the goal of coming up with ones that we agree on for implementation for the start of the new fiscal year.
I have,
Questions, yeah.
okay, go ahead, you go first.
Well, I have 4 questions. So the first one was, why start at the fiscal year? Why can't we start it sooner? Let's say, I don't know, May 1st. Why does it have to be at the start of the fiscal year?
Well, one of the reasons is, you know, the pattern in Woodstock is basically, as you know, it's 6 quieter months and 6 busier months. This has to be worked out. I'm trying to give us enough time to really work this out.
Okay.
And I think we don't want to create shock, and we want the public to know about it. That's why I'm reading through this tonight. We want to let them know about it again and again. And so if there's any feedback, we can take it in. So I just think that we could work out, that's a lot of details to work out in here.
Okay. I just didn't know what the, you know, why that specific.
And that's that's going to help it for budgetarily also,
Okay.
because we can count on after a year, we'll pretty much know, okay, so this was the income that we're having from those lots, for instance, what we can expect, and time, you know, the same timing as the.
Okay. The next question, and might be Eric who has to answer this, but managing the cards on file that you mentioned, or do we have the capacity to do that?
So
I mean, is how much more work?
I think the chief looked into it. I thought they couldn't do it. But I want to confirm that.
Marking the cards.
I mean, it's legal for like,
Well, you mean privacy concerns, or what is it? that you're-
I mean, automatic billing, right?
Your company.
Can you explain the question? I didn't hear it.
Well, he's wondering if
Mark the cards in the 2 hours fund.
about the credit cards on file.
Oh, credit cards.
Yeah, was it gonna create an administrative, you know, burden?
He thought it would be the opposite.
Yeah, I have to confirm with him. I thought he said they couldn't do it, but I think we
Oh, he
also,
didn't tell us that.
yeah, I think we also want to look into the liability of if we, as a municipality, have it on file, we
There
can
must
be
be.
liable if anything happens.
Well, yeah,
There must be a
absolutely.
company you can go through to do such things, right?
Yeah,
Like I tell, Green Mountain Power, charge my thing every month or
Yeah.
whatever, and they just.
Yeah, even if it's not a credit card, if it's some other system that allows for automatic quarterly payments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would help
ACH.
the
Yeah.
whole system.
Yeah, yeah. CH.
Instead of tracking people down and,
Right.
oh God, they haven't paid in 9 months. and, oh,
It's
yeah.
2023.
And then the next one is just a general question on, do we feel it's a lot to have to manage all these different policies for the different parking areas of the, village, if you know, Mechanic Street versus Elm Street versus the Green versus being on Central Street? I mean, does that get a little cumbersome for meter maids or even the public who has to pay for the spaces? Is it a lot to
No.
digest? It's a question.
Yeah, but they're already doing it. We're just talking about changing hours and rates.
Not the policies themselves for each one of those
Right.
areas.
No,
That's not changing.
that's not changing.
Okay.
well, it changed a little bit, right? Because now, on Elm Street, you can't be there all day long. So there'll be
Oh,
4
but it's
hours.
just- Okay.
Yeah, it'll be 4 hours, not forever.
Well, if we change that, that would be a change in terms of, 4 hours instead of all day at the meters.
Yeah.
That would be a change, but that's easy too.
And then just the reasoning behind the 15-minute space at the Welcome Center instead of maybe creating another, parking space for business people who might have their businesses in front of, on Central Street.
Well, this is more for the public. This isn't for business. 15-minute parking.
No, I get it, but why a 15-minute parking spot and not another spot that goes for business?
Yeah, use the restroom,
To use the restrooms.
maybe ask a quick question.
Ask a quick question. Just be sure that there's a spot available. Instead of someone parking there, if they change it for 4 hours at a time.
So you're gonna change back there for 4 hours also?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're proposing.
So it'll be 4 hours maximum everywhere except for the spots around the green.
Except for around the green.
Bill?
6 PM, why to 6? You said
10 to 6.
10 to 6. It's 10 to 5 now.
10 to 4.
4 now.
So most towns, it's free parking after 5, right? Like Hanover.
No, some are, but they're 9 to 5. So we're starting at 10.
Well,
Um,
stores are.
Anyway, so it's 8 hours, it's pretty standard.
16 is too late. So, comment.
Well, you'll capture some of the early bird crowd that goes to restaurants. It's additional revenue, basically.
Don't we have on the meters, aren't they each marked as to what hours?
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Sundays are free still, right?
yes, Sundays would remain free. So these are all suggestions that I think we need to
Mhm.
schedule more time to work on, and our little subcommittee will meet again and try to detail this out.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions.
Yes,
My first one is sort of an overall. So when we're looking at parking, we're probably looking at 3 audiences: residents, people who work at a business, and visitors. Right? So in this, I'm seeing,
It's 4 business owners too, right?
well, business owners, people that work there, right? So somebody
so- okay, so
somebody
not
that's
just
working
employees.
in the village. But somebody who has to go to a job in the village. So it seems like those are the 3 segments that we're looking at. And at least my initial impression is that there's a lot of this is taking a lot more into consideration, mostly visitors and people that are working in businesses. Like you're talking about reserved parking, getting reserved parking only for people that work. And I understand, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but like, that's what I'm seeing. And then visitors, we want to make sure that they are there for, only 4 hours, and like, what is the goal of these changes, right? Is it to move people around? Is it to make it easier for people to work in the village? Is it make it easier for tourists? Like, what is your objective in making these changes?
Well, for one thing, we haven't made changes in quite some time.
Well, that's,
No, I mean, is the price of bread the same now as it was 20 years ago?
no, but like, is there what are you're looking at, you want to extend the time? Great. Why? Just to extend the time, or is it because like you see that it's,
Brenda, do you want to answer some of these questions?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Primarily, it's to help assist the village with a little bit more income.
Yeah, revenue.
but all of this revenue right now is going back into parking. Like, it's not slush fund for us. It's supposed to go back into that parking line item so that we can buy new parking meters or do whatever, right? It's only supposed to go straight back towards parking. So it doesn't
Okay.
go to us
But it
No,
does,
right.
it does
But
go
it's-
to funds that can be spent without increasing taxes.
for parking, yes, but it's like a park, so it's not like we can raise the rates and be like, oh, good, now we can get more trash cans or whatever.
No,
I mean, it's
right.
fine if I'm trying to figure out what you guys are trying to accomplish.
We're trying to definitely, help with revenue.
Okay.
I think that we're trying to figure out the best usage of the parking that we have. And that was kind of the plan that we came up with. And we all felt that it made sense. The 15-minute parking spot in front of the chamber was so that people could go in and use the restrooms. That was a suggestion of Beth, which I think is a great one. And I think we still need to take more, we need to look more at the parking out behind Mechanic Street.
Okay. Because because like I get like keeping the cards on file, making July 1, like there is a problem and this is your solution, right? And if the problem is we need more revenue to manage parking, then if this is the answer, then that's fine. I'm just trying to figure out what problems you all are trying to solve, or what are the pain points? And so I'm trying to get a sense of that.
Mhm.
Things I didn't ask.
And yeah, and who else so it was you all and then the resident. And did you get
And Chief Swanson.
and Chief Swanson? Okay. And were you getting other feedback from other people? Or is it just kind of like what you've heard?
No, this is just the four of us who discussed these
Okay.
suggestions.
Go ahead, Bill.
Guys, this is a topic, but how did the police dream up this parking sideways for Wassail? That was brilliant. Instead of
always
parking
done
parallel, always done that. I just never.
Yeah, it's always done it.
So
I've been since,
Oh, nice.
actually,
wasn't
even
traveling
before I
around.
lived here and I came
Okay.
here.
It's just so you can get more parking.
Yeah,
in
no,
a
it's
smaller spot, right?
excellent, pretty cool. I think the parking map is like a fantastic idea. We get a QR code for that, put it somewhere, or is there a way to advertise that to the public, visitors on some of your newsletters that you have so that people can just get a parking map before they come to town, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like we did. 4-hour thing concerns me. How do you enforce that if you have Park Mobile and you can just sit in the restaurant and go, oh, it's about expired and you add
You can
$20?
restrict it on Park Mobile.
What's
It's like
that?
you can't,
You can't feed it, you
can
can't
say,
feed it.
You can't add
App can
anymore.
prevent you from doing it.
I don't know how you do that at
You-
meters, at individual meters. How do you do that?
At the individual meters, I don't know other than the meter attendance
Yeah,
recording.
Like, there's been a red Toyota there for 6 hours.
Yeah.
the old chalk thing.
How do you enforce now?
And I think that one of the main things
That
that
was
they'll
my-
find in that, enforcing that is the people who are abusing parking where it shouldn't be. That's employees generally.
You just,
And so that seems like maybe that's one of the catalysts for why you want more reserved parking for employees, because other things are being abused.
Well, if that's one of the things that's being abused. I want to name names, but.
Oh, yeah, no,
they-
please don't.
No, but the police are aware of it. And so I think that, yeah, it'd be difficult to enforce that 4-hour thing for every single car.
But you do
But
that.
they do their best and hopefully alleviate some of the problems that some cars are.
Tangential questions. How do we now enforce the 2-hour rule on Elm Street? Is that just a polite
Chalk.
courtesy? There's no way to enforce it?
Must be chalk.
It must be chalk.
Oh, no,
that's what-
chalk's illegal.
No,
now,
they.
right?
Is it legal now?
It's not legal anymore.
Yeah, chalk's illegal.
They used to do it by chalk, but now,
By chalk, really?
that's a good question. I know how. I know
I think
they,
it's observation.
Illustration, yeah, the meter
You take
maid's
pictures
walking
of
by.
cars,
Why
sure.
can't you use
yeah,
chalk? Damaging somebody's.
because you're marking somebody else's private property or something.
Putting chalk on the tire and the grounds.
Beth, you have a question, comment?
I have lots of comments.
Okay, please.
I am so opposed to 90% of this.
Okay, talk to us.
And so, first of all, we have raised the rates between fewer than 20 years ago. When you went to credit cards and, those solar machines that didn't work. Because it used to be 50 cents an hour. I'm not suggesting that you don't, that you change it back. I'm just saying that you have done that. If for years and years and years that I came to these meetings, the reason for parking meters was always to have a turnover in customers, not to raise income. And people would say that it's not revenue driven, it's to turn over customers. And I can, and so with, I mean, you know, people who work downtown, I mean, there are people who park on Pleasant Street every day, and that's free. There are limited parking spaces there. Everyone is struggling with employees and you want to beat them by going from 10 to 6 or by only having 4-hour parking or raising the rates for the reserved parking spaces, whatever. I have a problem with that and even business owners. There are business owners that park at meters that work in their stores all day on Saturday and Sunday. And what are they gonna do? They have to leave on Saturday and move their car after 4 hours. And who is down here at 6 o'clock? People at Coburn's and Sante and Brenda's once a Thursday? There aren't, I mean, except for the high times in perhaps October, there aren't people down here. John, I don't have the minutes to the EDC meeting. I think it was last week's. It was last week's or the month before. But John Spector did a little survey of parking spaces, and there were on a Saturday 238 parking spaces that were available.
But don't forget, he was including private parking.
No, well, he was including the rec center, so which is far away.
The Adequacy Health Center, Masonic, parking lot.
Well, you could park.
But those
there
could all
also.
be used as
Well, I'm
parking.
just, yeah,
Yes, he was including those.
yes. That was the
Um,
bulk of it.
So I just hope that I hope that you go public with some of the things and that really consider, are you driving the revenue? You know, I have people that work at the Welcome Center that are paid minimum wage. So what you're gonna do is cut into their, you know, you're taking $1 an hour. So they're not even making minimum wage if they park there, if they park. And they don't have any other place to park. And so so just keep those kind of things in mind when you're moving forward, I hope.
Definitely, and keep in mind, Beth, that when we're not recommending changing the $1 an hour at all. So,
Right, but they're gonna have to leave and
Their car,
move their car.
once,
which is what it sounds like the point is.
yeah, once a day. But yeah, and it's really the ones on Elm Street that and Central Street that were,
Do we have a sense of how many employees work in the village? I mean, we're trying to solve,
mean,
I mean,
good.
it sounds like a problem, part of this problem
Problem
is,
that isn't really a problem.
well, I mean, here's the thing, if one of the issues is people that work in the village need to be able to park somewhere, it sounds like we should look at that problem and say, okay, where are those people gonna park? If we have Mechanic Street and Elm Street, that's part of where they could park if their employers provide it,
Mhm.
but what are the other options?
Pleasant Street for free
Yeah, there's like 5 spots.
So-
Yeah, wow.
on each side,
Like-
on each side. So there's at least, there's 10.
and opposite here.
South Street.
Right, a lot of town hall employees park here, but you're right. You could park here.
Yeah,
And
you
also
could-
all the way down,
Cross Street.
all the way down from the church, all the way down to the bridge on both sides is all free parking.
Right.
yeah.
Not on both sides, only on one side
Yeah.
of the bridge. I mean, of the covered bridge, it's one side.
No,
The
no,
metal
I'm
bridge.
talking, yeah,
There's tons of
talking-
free parking. No,
Park it.
Yeah,
And
Well,
there's
maybe
lots of, there's lots of free parking on South Street.
maybe that's something that
Yeah.
we should look into. It's like, how many free parking spots are there? And
So
when
one
are
of
they
the,
free?
so one of the problems is just lazy, in my opinion.
Well, that's,
well, you happen to have one that is right behind your door.
The Frost Mills parking lot, which became private. The inn used to own it. A lot of employees used to
Where was
park.
They did park there.
They did park there,
where was that?
and that was a pretty good walk. That was down, by the river. A big parking lot down by the river, off of Pleasant Street. It's private property now.
Mhm.
That was a parking lot, and that was, so many employees parked there. And that was a pretty good walk. A further, yes, and events. That's a further walk than South Street. And other places that are close by that would cost them nothing. So we'd like to urge them to not park on Central Avenue. And maybe this is one way it would urge them. And I don't think it would hurt almost anyone else. 4 hours, very few people spend more than 4 hours.
So we need to make sure that part of this, and you said it with the map, is like the map including free parking and saying,
Yeah, includes South Street, include.
Yeah, so
Pleasant
if
Street,
you are-
include all the free parking that does exist. And maybe retrain people to park for free, and walk slightly further than they're walking now.
Can I just say one more thing that based on, which I appreciate that the green, that people around the green will be able to park for longer than 4 hours. It is interesting when you're talking to people, especially people from out of the country. But people who will have found a parking space, say on Mechanic Street. And they may walk to Billings Farm, even though there's plenty of free parking there, they have no problem parking. And that's kind of where I got, where the 4 hours concern came from, is that yes, they can move and it's free over there at Billings Farm, but often people will come, find a parking space and want to go do their shopping, get some breakfast, do their shopping, hike up Mount Tom. And it, I hope that we're still going to be able to validate
Yeah,
tickets.
oh yeah,
because-
we're not gonna change that. Those people, twice a year, any license plate can still have their ticket validated, and it won't cost them anything if they go over time.
So I talked to Beth while it was going on, and I think it might be a good idea to send some of these recommendations to Beth that she can distribute to the business owners in the village, get their feedback as well, to make sure that we're.
well,
being
and I
transparent.
would say employees.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the business owners, but, I'd hate for there to be a layer where somebody feels like they can't say something.
Yeah, this is all gotta be public.
And one thing I will add about this, with on parking, is I have heard from a few parents, I told Jeffrey about this a little while ago, about concerns about having to pay for parking to bring their kids to the elementary school. If it's dangerous parking by Ville Field and crossing the street. So a few parents have reached out to me about that, so I just want to make sure as the parking subcommittee is working, and they're thinking of that as well. I don't know if there is a solution, but it brought to my attention by a few different people, so.
Well, and I mean, South, as somebody who does that every day, it's a mess, and I think a lot of people, not saying this to be inflammatory, but a lot of people work at the inn, park on South Street, because it's right next to the inn, and that's fine, but like, if people are parked there all day, and then you have to like do a pick up, drop off, it makes it harder, because there's only like 3 spaces, and if you are picking up a child, and depending on the age of the child, you have to physically be seen. So like, I can't just pull up and tell my 2nd grader to come out to me. I have to park somewhere. So like, parking is necessary for that 30 minutes. So if there's like an hour where there can be rules, or I don't know,
The map could help that too.
but there's not very many, but if you have to go down to the green, then you're paying to have to pick up your kid, which would suck.
What?
There are only so many spaces on South Street where you can
Oh,
park.
no, I'm saying you could park here.
Over here?
So almost as close as the green. I'm just saying, if that could be on the map, it would help. Because
So,
if
but
that's part of
kids
the,
are gonna get fussy, but yeah.
it's not that far. Back in the day, my goodness.
You haven't
Oh,
been kids,
okay.
You had to walk to
Back
school so far. Oh, my goodness.
but it's it's an hour of the day. And then during foliage, people just park in front of the school, and that's infuriating, because there are signs that say, don't park during these hours, and people park there anyway.
That's, maybe we can get the cones and have the crossing guard road cones 15 minutes beforehand, so I already know at some point.
Yeah.
Except for that cars are already parked
Okay,
there.
that's true.
That's the. Tow them all.
Okay, just more to come.
Yay. Okay, thank you guys, Brendan and Jeffrey, for getting it. It's a lot to think about.
Yeah, but it,
But I'm glad that you all got it started, and I know you put a lot of work into it, so.
Yep.
Thank y'all.
you're-
No easy feat. Okay. Next, is there any other conversation about that before we move on? And then we're gonna keep talking about it. Okay. So is there any other business to come before the trustees this evening?
No.
Okay, in that case, Jeffrey,
Oh,
minutes from the 14th and the 29th.
okay, November 29th.
Uh,
Uh-oh. No, November 14th, rather. Let's start with November 14th. I have a question.
Uh-oh.
In attendance, we had a Kimball Bailey. I don't know who Kimball Bailey is. I know a Kimball Bealey,
Ooh,
and I know a Kimberly Bailey.
I think that was Kimball.
I think it was Kimball.
Yeah, it's nice.
Biele.
It's a tough last name to spell.
Right, but anyway, nevertheless, also Grant Hankey, I think is Graham Hankey.
It is Graham.
Yes. Graham.
So if you could make those 2 changes, Nikki. That's all I had on November 14th, and I had none on November 29th whatsoever. So
Amazing.
continue with your superb job, and my minor corrections are
I love it. Okay, I would make a motion to accept the minutes on 11/14/23 and 11/29/23. Is there a second?
Second.
with those.
With
names.
those 2, yes, with those
With
2
the
edits.
2
Thank you,
edits,
Jeffrey.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye,
Any opposed? Motion carries. Feel better, Brenda.
thank you.
We miss you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Brenda.